NBA Adam Silver building the WNBA into a brand. Is the WNBA a brand or just a commodity? The WNBA looking to scale going into the future. Is that a reality or just a figure of imagination? We'll talk about those things and more today on the Money Mike Syndicated Radio podcast. NBA Adam Silver, CNN Fast Money, talking about building the WNBA into a brand. Speaking to corporate investors, letting them know, and these are preferred investors that he's speaking to, whenever the CEOs get on CNN or CNN Money, what they're doing is they're getting on there and they want to kind of talk about the future. We're going to give you our perspectives, what we're going to scale into, what's the outlook look like for the WNBA. Which brings me to the question: is the WNBA a brand or just a commodity? That's what we need to know. And, you got to look at it. When you think about a commodity is just the product, goods, and services, nothing special about it. Okay. And you got to look at this: is the WNBA a brand or a commodity? Because here's where I'm going. When you get to the point that you got Wall Street wants to do evaluations and they want to do this without CaitlinClark, right? So now they're trying to understand Adam Silver, no doubt about it. Is the WNBA a brand or just a commodity? Because once you remove CaitlinClark, now CaitlinClark is a brand. Okay, it's a cross-selling brand. What do I mean by a cross-selling brand? You can throw out the first pitch at the Yankees game. You can ride around the track at NASCAR. You can go to the NFL, the Colts game. They got a jersey that has you. That's a brand. Now, here's the way the market defines it. And again, everybody else is going to have a different definition of how it can happen, really, because the WNBA is really saying, hey, guess what? We're fine. We're fine. We're good. We're okay. Folks, you got to understand the WNBA, the revenue that they bring in, it's not a lot of revenue, right? You're talking about a minuscule amount of revenue, right? When you get in there, I think, what is it? Two, I think 220 might have brought in 100 million. I mean, they capped out at 200 million. That's not a lot of money for a league, right? So you got Adam Silver's trying to build this in a brand. Now, you go through this tumultuous season. I come in, and what do? I come in and I'm objective, right? Because I'm not really looking at anything else but the corporate enterprise business of the WNBA. How does it function? Revenue, expenses, client image. I'll start there, and then we'll get into safety, security, and the stability of the league. Because now you're talking to investors, right? You're talking to individuals that have a lot of money that know. First of all, any billionaire that's made a lot of money understands how to make money in the WNBA. You're not talking about a very large corporate enterprise. You're talking about something small in comparison, right? You're throwing around numbers, okay, as Adam Silver's opening up the brands and sharing revenue from the WNBA. Now we had a lot to get into because you got a situation where with the WNBA and how it all came about and how it really just worked itself out and what did it do to get to the stage it's at, because the WNBA has a revenue split of 90-10, okay, with the NBA, right? So you got to look at that. You got to say to yourself, okay, Mike, we got a revenue split of 90-10. How did we even get to a revenue split of 90%? Okay, 90% to the NBA, right, or the partners, and then you got 10% going back to the players, right? So how did we get to that point? Because the WNBA was not making money. Okay, it's a commodity. It's a commodity, meaning a commodity I can go get it anywhere. I can go get it anywhere that I want to go get it, right? Because it doesn't really mean that much. And you're talking about a revenue split. All right. So how did we get there, and how did all this come about, and what happened? And if you look at it, you say to yourself, "Wow, okay, that one there is really really interesting." And here's why: because let's look at the split. Let's try to understand it. The WNBA, and I'm going to turn off of this, but I want to go over this with you. The WNBA is more popular than ever. Okay, so what they're saying in 2019, you made $100 million in revenue. All right. So you come back and you come back again and you make $200 new stars, right? So here's the thing. Can you survive? And you go in there and you got CaitlinClark, right? Because You got it where it came down to a split where the WNBA didn't have a choice. The negotiation, I won't necessarily call it a negotiation under duress, but it was a negotiation, either accept this or we're going to fold the league, right? So under the current CBA, the WNBA players spent 9.3% of total revenue, right? Much less than athletes in other major sports. NBA players get an aggregate receive 49 and 51% of basketball related income. NFL players get 48%, all hockey and NHL get 50%, right? So you get into the revenue splits, escalate the money generated from broadcast, TV deals, tickets, merchandise, and licensing. All right, so you got to think about that, right? So if the WNBA, which is a commodity, excuse me, folks, the WNBA, which is a commodity, right? So now you're saying, okay, I'm going to take this split, right? You get to the revenue split, and you're saying, okay, anything against the broadcast, any revenue we get there, we're going to get 90% of that. Anything a TV deal, we get 90% of that. Anything on the tickets, we get 90% of that. Any type of jersey sales, we get 90% of that, and you get 10%. So what are you dealing with, right? This is almost like taking us back to the college, right? Because you got this split. You got CaitlinClark's got to get this huge, huge salary, right? But you got a revenue split. So every time you got something going on that you got to get in, why go play? Because you're not getting the money you deserve, right? The WNBA players are not getting the money they deserve, right? So here comes Adam Silver, and Adam Silver saying, look, I'm trying to build this thing up into a brand, right? But you can't build it into a brand when you got the players who are playing in the WNBA as a commodity, right? Because you have to look at it and say to yourself, and I mentioned it, right? And other people may disagree with me. Again, when you come on the Money Mike Syndicated Radio podcast, folks, it's my opinion. Okay. But if it turns the truth, I'm giving you the facts before it happened. There's no way you could say you're a brand. You go in there in the NBA game 5 and you shoot five, was it 4 or 5 out of 40 and 3 pointers? That's a commodity, folks. You can get anybody walking down the street, okay, to get in there and shoot, okay, 5 out of 40. You take 43s and you make 5. That's a commodity, folks. And when you get to that, you have to look at it as corporate America, right? What does corporate America want to do? They want to stand behind something that's going to win. Now, when you get to a commodity and you get to a brand, CaitlinClark is a brand, right? So that's why Wall Street wants to know, hey, what are the metrics without Caitlin, right? Because if everybody's talking about that, but you're trying to gloss over it, right? Because when you look at it, and everybody wants to talk about CaitlinClark and CaitlinClark not being the reason the league was good. It was all great. Everything you did before CaitlinClark was able to enter into the league was great work. The only problem with it, nobody watched it. Nobody promoted it. Nobody marketed it. Okay. Nobody even cared about it. Nobody had an interest in it at all. You were left alone on NFL Sunday by yourself. It was a quiet little environment. Why? Because here's the deal. I'll tell you something that a lot of people don't know. You got the NBA and you got TNT, man. These guys are fighting, right? Because they're trying to understand, let's face it. Okay, how did they lose a contract, right? So you're getting in a corporate enterprise. The NBA and TNT are not friends, folks. They are not friends. They had an agreement. We matched the offer. Okay, we matched the offer. Now, what did NBA Adam Silver and the NBA owners do? They had a choice. They had TNT, okay, or they had to go partner with somebody else that could scale. Okay, for you folks, if you look at scalability, what does it really mean? How can I take this league into the future, right? Because you get the partners and you get each one of these partners. I got to tell you something, folks. Each one of these partners, if the WNBA could get off being a product, you're not a product. That's bad language. I would rather say we have stars in the WNBA, right? We have stars because when you get to Nike, Nike wants stars. When you get to Amazon, Jeff Bezos, he wants stars, right? You get to Robert Iger at Disney, he wants stars, right? He's got Disney World. That's how he makes money, Disney, right? And here's the deal, okay? Because the WNBA has been on this trend, and you got Disney. Here's what concerns me because every year you come out, they make a movie about the superstar in the NBA because it's a brand, right? So you got Michael Jordan does the movie Bugs Bunny, and man, does it sell. So what does LeBron James do it? When can the NBA do that? When can we have a player that we can put on a brand, the brand of Disney, and send it out? This is where I'm going. Because if you are not marketable, you're a commodity. Now, let's define it. Because I really want everybody to understand if you're a brand or if you're just a commodity, because everybody's going to get on here with Money Mike and tell Money Mike, oh, Money Mike, you're off base. No, I'm not. Let me tell you why. Okay, because I dig down deep, and I'm going to take a deeper dive in this. When you're a brand, right? So you got CaitlinClark. That's coming in like Beyonce, right? CaitlinClark, Beyonce. Okay, so let's think about that. When you are a brand in corporate America, the clients who are paying to see you will pay more money than the actual value of the ticket cost, right? They will pay more money than the actual value of the ticket cost. So if you want to see the Indiana Fever play, CaitlinClark is the brand, right? There's no doubt about it. That's the biggest brand there. And that brand, and here's the deal that's happening with this in the corporate enterprise, because this is where it gets risky, right? And here's where I'm talking about it gets risky, because you're gonna deal with Wall Street trying to come in there and make something and capitalize on it because it's a money pit. But they have no emotion. Okay, they have no feeling of how this thing goes because every year, okay, can it survive without CaitlinClark? If you put the same players that played in the NBA, and I'm being objective, folks. When I say objective, I mean I'm following NFL Sunday, but this story is so big. I mean I can't even leave the story because it's just going to keep snowballing. I told you a long time ago that if you take a pebble, you could start it up on the Shasta Mountain, or you get past Grant's Passage up there in Oregon. You let that pebble roll down that hill, and I'll tell you what, by the time you hit it to all those tributaries, because it's coming from what is it called? Granite's Pass, or up there going up to Oregon, headed to Portland with the new WNBA franchise. That pebble's going to reach the Delta eventually, right? And it's going to be a boulder when it hits the Delta. Well, this story is turning into a boulder, right? Because you got CaitlinClark, and everybody's excited. You got money. Now, here's the deal when it gets real interesting and you start talking about money, because you got the Kansas City Commission, right? And Adam Silver, you open up a can of worms is bigger than he could do, right? Because you got now a situation where the WNBA, okay, there's not going to be a 90% revenue split anymore, right? Because the big dogs are coming, right? The big dogs, I'm telling you, like James Dolan, when you get in the big dogs, you're going to get in there. You got John Stakey, AT&T. I know the way of that. Okay, there's no doubt about it. Okay, I know how that one works. You got Nike. I know how that one works. Nike went and got Tiger Woods changed golf, right? So the WNBA players, don't think this is brand new. You got a game of golf nobody wants, right? Nobody wants. They were great golfers, right? They were really, really, really good golfers. I mean, these guys could really play. And Tiger Woods came out of Stanford, right? So let me look at this, right? Let me look at this and back you up when we get to the corporate partners, right? Because he's got them all, right? So Tiger comes out of Stanford, man, oh man, the Nike, the golfers in the PG&A, man, they were smacking Tiger harder than the WNBA players were smacking CaitlinClark. They were talking so much smack to Tiger Woods. You know what happened? These guys came in there, man, and let me tell you how it went down, right? Because Nike sealed it. Is the Tiger got in there? He's not going to win. These pros. We've been doing this. Dot to dot. Same story with CaitlinClark. That's why I'm using Tiger Woods. You know, Tiger Woods walked in there and blitzed them in the Masters. 22-stroke lead. They had to change the course. They had to change the course. What do you think they're trying to do in women's basketball right now? They're trying to change the course. They want to lower the rim. Why? Because people can't do what CaitlinClark does. This is Money in the Bank you're listening to. The Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. We're powered up by Fanatics, and we're breaking it down. Tiger swept through those guys. They had to change Augusta. Okay, you think about that. They had to change the course. It was too short, and he was flying. He was carrying the bunkers. Okay, you guys talk about CaitlinClark in golf, right? CaitlinClark is flying past the bunkers, okay? They got to change the whole course of the game to make it even for other players to compete. Why? because the current players in the WNBA can't do what CaitlinClark does, period. If you can't get out there and you show me, this is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio podcast powered up by Fanatics, spitting truth to you today. Corporate enterprise business, you go out there and you shoot 4 or 5 of 40 to 45 three-pointers, that's a commodity. I can get anybody. I'm looking for stars, okay? Now, what did the WNBA do? The WNBA, you came at the right time, okay? But you're taking ownership for something college basketball built. College basketball built, right? They built it. They went into name, image, and likeness. Where would the WNBA be today without name, image, and likeness, right? Because that's what made the WNBA popular, not the WNBA players. See, so sometimes you get it confused. But that's all right. Money Mike's going to break it down. I'm going to give you a story here that's going to get it to you even better. I'm going to talk to the WNBA players like Floyd Mayweather, right? Let's get into it because you got Bob Arum. Just picture Bob Arum and Don King. I mean, it's different sport, different completely, but they're the same as Adam Silver, the same as Bezos, Nike. Those guys have run boxing for years, right? And you got Oscar De La Hoya coming in. So let me give you the story. Let me speed it up. Right, so you got Bob Arum is sitting there like Adam Silver, not the same, but I mean, Bob's an older guy, 90 years old, still going strong. But you got a situation where Floyd Mayweather was coming along, but all they wanted to do was put Oscar De La Hoya up on the building, right? Everywhere Mayweather lives in Vegas, he says, "Man, I'm tired of seeing this guy up on the building," right? So Floyd would go in there and tell Bob, "Look, Bob, you got to put me up to fight." He's like, "Floyd, I can't pay." He said, "I don't care about the money. I need to be on the board because I've got a different mindset," right? So you talk about the guys who are the partners, right? These guys are titans, right? So you get Floyd Mayweather. Excuse me. Floyd Mayweather's a titan. Floyd Mayweather's a titan, right? So he looks up there and he kept seeing, and Bob didn't want to do it, right? So then here's the deal. Now they come in there and Floyd says, "You know what? I'm just like the WNBA players. You know what? I'm sick of you promoting somebody else. I'm going to change this. I'm going to promote myself. This is the money team, Floyd Money Mayweather, right in Las Vegas. Right now, you see him everywhere you go." So what did Floyd do? Floyd took ownership and he said, "Look, here's the deal. I'm going to fight this guy. I'm going to beat this guy, Oscar De La Hoya, right? There's no doubt about it. He's going to fight the guy and he's going to beat the guy. No doubt about it. But I'm not going to stop there just because I beat him, right? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this thing to another level," right? So, yeah, Floyd was in there. And Floyd goes in there, and I'm talking about money, the money team, right? This guy makes $1 billion in boxing. Nobody else does. He gets a promoter, right? He gets Al Heyman. You can't even see Al Heyman, right? You don't even know who Al Heyman is, but Al Heyman's been putting on events for years, right? So you get this thing, and what I'm trying to say to the WNBA players, because right now you're being a commodity. Floyd Mayweather, Bob Arum had him as a commodity. He says, he used to call him Pretty Boy Floyd, and he changed that, okay, to Floyd Money Mayweather, right? Because he had to go from fighting, and it's where the WNBA has to really understand. He had to go from fighting boxers that were regular boxers, right? When you move up to the next levels, the NBA has done. The NBA is a global corporate enterprise, global, right? So what does Floyd got to do? He's got to follow that same blueprint because the blueprint doesn't change if it's Nike, AT&T, if it's Amazon, Bezos, doesn't matter who he is, Delta, it doesn't matter, right? So he says, "I got to go fight countries, okay? Because I can't fight fighters who are in the United States because there's no revenue in there, right? So the WNBA, if it wants to grow, all right, you got to go out to other countries and get players to come over from other countries, make it a global game. That means Japan, China, wherever you're at, right? But here's the deal. Floyd took them one by one till he got to the Philippines, right? That was Manny Pacquiao, right? Everybody built up to it, paid $50,000 a seat. That's a brand. Floyd Money Mayweather. Used to be Pretty Boy Floyd. The WNBA, you've got a brand that had no interest in it before. You're going to have to tweak that brand to get interest and not be on CaitlinClark. That's what Wall Street's saying. Wall Street's not coming to the WNBA players because WNBA players, you're going through a corporate reorg, and every year, everybody knows in corporate America, you go through a reorg, right? So you got the corporate partners. What are they going to do? They're sitting down at the table. These guys are going to do Zoom calls together, whether you see them having breakfast, see them in their pajamas, whatever they do. You might see them on a lake fishing, whatever they do. They're going to be on those calls every day till they get back to the first of the year because you only got so much time. Plus, you got Adam Silver. Here's the deal. I mean, you got Adam Silver, man, you got a WNBA All-Star game going down, right? And you got this 90-10% split. And what does it talk about, right? Because those revenue splits, and I'm looking at an article, so please excuse me, but I got to get this to you. The revenue splits escalate money generated from broadcast TV deals, right? So you just got a deal. But the WNBA, you didn't get that deal. You don't got that deal. Let me tell you why you only get 90% because what the NBA has cut off some chips, right? They cut off some of the chips off the table. They gave you the crumbs, right? They gave the WNBA the crumbs. Don't settle for the crumbs because if you reorg this thing and you do it right, you can give them the crumbs. Okay, if you do it right, and Adam Silver knows that. He's nobody. I mean, he came through David Stern. David Stern was a heartfelt man, the NBA commissioner, took the league from being on 11:30 at night, players not getting paid to what they are today, right? So there's nothing new. The men have been through this before, right? So you get in there, now you got WNBA president Nico Gumake is really just saying money in the league is a defining moment. WN players can't afford to stand still. Why? Because you're a product. That's a bad language. I don't like that word. I mean, she's been to Stanford. I mean, they're both her and her sister graduate of Stanford. I saw them play at Stanford, saw them play with Cy Fair. I've seen them. They're the best high-low. In fact, I mean, those two young ladies could have played in the WNBA as freshmen in high school, and I stand on that because I saw them. But the deal is this, right? You can't be a product. With the historic 2024 WNBA now on the books, we're looking forward to see what the WNBA Players Association going to do. Because now you got to figure out you got leverage. Here's your leverage, and I'm going to tell you these guys are going to go down fighting, right? Because when you look at it, you got the WNBA, the NBA, and TNT are in a lawsuit, folks. This is not friendly fire, right? They're not friendly fire because TNT, the boys at TNT, you got Shaq, Barkley, Kenny Smith, all these guys got a long-standing relationship with the NBA, and the NBA they had in a contract a ruling that if you can match the offer, you can keep the business, right? We want to be in the business. And, Adam Silver made a big move. He says, hey, we'll pay the lawsuit because, you know what? If I get with Bezos, and Amazon, we could scale this thing higher and higher and higher, right? Because you don't want to do a league where you play all these games, you spend all this revenue and how much it costs, you're losing money. And all of a sudden you get in there and you're back down to 10%, right? Because you didn't have a choice. So, you know what? And now you got CaitlinClark. The salary is 15 to 20 million, right? Because you got to differentiate that. It can't be a Michael Jordan thing where the Bulls are sitting in there paying Jordan and Scotty, what are they paying, $1 million a year, and they're making hundreds of millions, right? It was a bad deal, real bad deal. Jerry Cross, Last Dance, treated the GM like garbage, right? Because they were screwing everybody. He was just doing them wrong. Now the WNBA, you got Caitlin. Now who else has a brand to match Caitlin, right? 15 to 20 minutes. I know who it is. This is where you got to understand what corporate America is not in the business of playing for talent they have, right? If you look at it, if you're going to bring in outside talent, you pay more for that, right? So when you look at it and you get into it today and you find yourself in a spot where you're like, okay, who could come in there and do like CaitlinClark? Well, here's the deal. There's only one other player that's out there. That's Juju Watkins, right? Juju Watkins is the only player, if you want to go all in poker, which Nike is doing. I mean, Rich Paul, they're doing it. I mean, Clutch Sports, they're going all in on Juju, signed her in high school, right? They got girls out there dunking. I had somebody send me some player dunking. I mean, they got so many other stars, right? But the existing players, I tell you, your name is on a board. Here's the deal. Your name is on the board, right? Existing WNBA players. There's 144 of you. Every year in corporate America, you know what corporate America does in the last quarter? Because we're going to go dark. There's going to be a dark period. Close to get to Thanksgiving. People are going to take time off. They're going to go from the last 45 days to the end of the year. Everybody's working at home. Nobody's in the office, right? But they got players' names on the board, just like the NFL draft board. You know what they're looking at? They're saying who's the keepers and who's the ones we don't want. Okay, and they're walking down. That's why I tell you about when you look at what is going on. You look at corporate partners. You look at these coaches getting fired. You know why these coaches are getting fired? Because they don't align with the client image of the corporate partners, right? They don't align. You can't get on there. And here's the thing with corporate America. You gotta understand, we went through inclusiveness 15 years ago. 15 years ago, that's how far corporate America got it out in front of this, right? So when you do something like that, everybody's equal. Nobody is prejudging or has some insight or anything like this that makes you feel this is the way. But the coaches, I could look back and put a compilation together. Every one of these coaches has got let go out of the WNBA. They all had something that was negative that was going on and it needed to go. So they cut it. I told you guys a long time ago, you got to build this league and Adam Silver and everybody. You got to build like the Big East. If you remember the Big East, ESPN's flagship network, how did it build itself into the ESPN it is today? Of course, it had to have Disney, which is the same. Okay, you got to understand when you got Disney, that's the same as having Adam Silver, because Robert Iger controls the strings. Stephen A., all those people on ESPN, they don't control anything, right? They are told what to do. They don't run their show accordingly, so they have to come up with certain instances that do this in a different way. But at ESPN, Robert Iger run the show. He's got a duty responsibility shareholder. You get a large shareholder wants any one of those people off ESPN or off ABC. I'm going to talk to you correctly today. This is a good show. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio podcast. Go ahead and click the like because I'm getting into it today. You got ABC. Cheryl Swoop's going to get on there. You know what Robert Iger and the shareholders say? I want her off. Okay, Robert Iger doesn't make the call, right? It's not going to be that. When you get a major shareholder say, I want that woman off that ABC network. I don't want her doing games anymore. That person sitting there with their grandkids or whoever it is, that shareholder's got a whole lot of power, right? And they'll get you in a corporate takeover and they'll do a lot of things to make your life uneasy. So at the end of the day, what do? They put Cheryl Swoops down, right? They took you down, right? Because you're not good for the league and you're not aligned with our client image. See, here's what happens in corporate America. You got to look at it as a whole. When you're doing business, you're not doing business in just a certain area, right? So you got to look at it and say, look, we've got several revenue streams we can get into. You know why you don't got any commercials? Every one of them, NBA, Nike, Amazon, Disney, AT&T, Delta, and the WNBA player, you can run a collective commercial, can run it all year. But you got to be aligned with the client image. You can't be saying you have the product and talking about the fans because the fans pay you. And if you don't want to get paid here like John Gruden, John Gruden was coaching the Raiders. He said, look, guys, you ain't going to hit the quarterback. Well, we got to hit him. We got to do our job. No, you want to go play in the league. The league pays you about $800 a week. Going down there, you can hit all you want, right? You're not going to do that here, right? The NFL wants in the WNBA. I looked at something yesterday when you got the Hunt family, right? I told you about Al Davis. Hunt family, the owner of the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay, that's the origin. The NFL and the AFL did a merger. They left Al Davis out, and you got Mark Davis running that ship like a champion now. But he learned a lot from his dad. He was smart. I had opportunity to spend 4 hours with Cliff Branch, Oakland Raiders Hall of Fame. And he told me flat out, Mark Davis negotiated all of my contracts with his father, right? So you got the big dog and the little dog. Now you got a situation where the WNBA, let's talk about Delta, right? Because you guys are saying this 50 million, folks, a lot of this is a drop in the bucket when you get in there and you do some right things. So let me look at it. I looked it up and I said, wow, what about Delta, right? Delta Airlines made $54 billion in revenue last year, okay? Let's talk about that. Operating budget of $6.3 million. You're talking about WNBA flights cost $50 million and Delta is making $54 billion. You can't even see the $50 million on the balance sheet. The WNBA, if they could align the players. Now, I don't know if this will ever happen because college basketball, the WNBA did not build this presence. Okay, this is where it gets risky business. And you get back to Adam Silver trying to build a brand, right? Because when you didn't build this presence, then it gets a little tricky, right? It's more risky because you are backfilling on a trend, okay? Which means if the trend ends, you're going to end too. You don't want that to happen, right? So now you got a competitive threat. Like I told you, you got NBA and TNT in a lawsuit. Man, they're not happy. TNT is looking to take as much as they can. You do a walkout, TNT is going to employ all of these players immediately. That league is going to come. The league is going to play regardless. Now you got the NBA. Hey, you know what? We want to play more games, more games, more games. They want to run right into that overseas season. And the NBA, which all the reach it has, right? Because Adam Silver's got a lot of reach, right? And you know what? The owners lost leverage, but Adam Silver, man, he go a long way. Okay. And when you got to ask yourself, WNBA players, do you want to be a brand or you just want to be just a commodity? When you have a league the size as you have been running for 28 years, the best you can do is 50, 100 million revenue. That's just a commodity. We can get anybody. And here's the scary part with me that Money Mike looks at it because I got to look at it objectively. I'm going to tell you straight up. I don't need the most talented players in the world to make a good league. I'd rather get the less talented players that can shoot the ball because what do the WNBA fans want to see? When do you go see the NBA? NBA shoot the heck out the ball, folks. I'm going to tell you, NBA, you line up shooters in the NBA and the WNBA, there's a big difference. Those guys stroke the ball. Luka, they make shots. Curry makes shots. I mean, they're all CaitlinClarks running around it. But you go into WNBA finals. My. You go 5 of 45 at the three-point line. That's a commodity, folks. I need the stars that can shoot the three. I mean, it should be a minimum required to play the three position. You shoot 45, 50% from the field in the WNBA, right? Because nobody, and then on the end, you're all excited. And you're talking about this is college basketball trends. College basketball and AT&T won't understand. I'll just tell you. And it's okay. It happens, right? Because this just is corporate America and how the business gets built up. When you look at it, you look at itself, right? And you got college basketball has built this brand, right? That's the NCAA women's basketball, right? You got Son of Carl and Chris Rivers over there at XL Sports over there. Okay, the guy's a genius, right? So they come in there to get name, image, and likeness approved, which it allowed, the college basketball players to build up a following that they're bringing to the WNBA. This is the deal. You got Paige Bucher's going to bring that, okay? Angel Reese has brought that. Angel Reese is going a different direction, but she brought her own fans. WNBA players, you're a commodity unless you're bringing in fans. If you're not bringing in fans, you can't sit here and argue or say you can survive without CaitlinClark. It's impossible because you got to bring in the fans. That's the name of the game, right? There's got to be something that's moving the fans. And if you want to be a brand, then you're going to pay more. When the CaitlinClark tickets get sold out, pulled out, preferred seat, and you got to go to that game, it's going to cost you more than the face value of the ticket. That's a brand. If you're going in there and Connecticut's playing Minnesota, no matter how great Reeves and Lynx and all that, you know what? That's bad news, right? Because you're nobody wants to see you play, right? Because you're a commodity. There's nothing that you do. And then, of course, end of the day, look at Cheryl Reeves. Cheryl Reeves gets on there. I don't give a SHIT, right? I mean, you're just blasting whatever you want to do. What do you think the partners are sitting there doing with the kids who are watching that and want to watch a clean interview? Okay, and you can't give a clean interview. You know what? And that's why I appreciate the NFL. I'll tell you something about the NFL. The NFL wants part of the WNBA. Welcome it because that's the highest brand and the highest shield. They don't play around with a press conference. There's certain guys in that locker room you can't touch. So you're walking around there, you want to make a rookie mistake, go try to interview a guy that's got to go to the podium, right? I mean, as a rookie, I had to understand that I made the rookie mistake, right? No, can't do that one, man. Me and Aaron's sitting there. I'm saying, man, can I get a few words, sneak a couple? No, I can't do that. Everything's got to go to the podium. I'm in the locker room with Green Bay Packers, right? So you got to have podium people and you got to have public relations. If you watch an NFL interview, they will go next here, you're next. 2 more questions, guys. That's it. We're done. Bye. They're not going to let an interview like the Chicago Sky sit there with bodies banging around in the locker room, all kind of things going on, no public relations carrying it, right? So that's why the Kansas City Chiefs, they want in. Now, here's the deal. Can the NFL survive without CaitlinClark? Yeah, if you get the right business owners, right? You get the right business owners. Because this thing here, the NBA, my, we're going to wrap it up here, folks. I get to going, and I apologize, but I get to go and talk about stuff and letting the cat out the bag. Now, you get a situation where you got the Kansas City Commission, Kansas City Chiefs, right? And their sports commission saying, look, WNBA, what do we got? We've got a wide open T-Mobile arena that's empty. These guys, look at this. They want in. You got Steve Ballmer. You think Steve Ballmer's not ready to lose a little money on the WNBA battling the Sparks and the Clippers? Man, you got to understand. You got to get these guys in the right place. You get Ballmer expansion, and then you got the owner of the Sacramento Kings going down invested in Portland. Time for an ownership group because the stars alignment is going to get people in the stands. It's not necessarily how good of your talent is, right? So to wrap up, here we go. What a day this one's been. I'll tell you, is the WNBA a brand or just a commodity? You know what? Right now, you're just a commodity because if the ticket prices, if the fans are willing to pay more than the face value of the ticket, you are a brand. And if not, if they want to pay less, you're just a commodity. Can the NBA, WNBA side survive without CaitlinClark? Yeah, that's risky business there, folks. But it can be done. What it's going to do is going to take a lot of marketing. It's going to take a lot of marketing and the right athlete coming in at the right time. I think that's Juju Watkins 100%. I think Juju and Caitlin will take this league higher than ever, and then everybody else backfilling is going to come in. You know, Wall Street's in. Wall Street's in. Once they hit that, he put them on CNN. Right away, the Kansas City Sports Commission saying, here we are. Okay, but you got to keep this hush hush because we got a lawsuit still going on. TNT is ready to burn down. The NBA can't do it, but they're friends, and that's how it happens. Sometimes you end up. WNBA, I'd tell you to follow Floyd Money Mayweather. That's it. You got to go from being pretty boy, being a pretty boy or a pretty girl. But I'm not saying that in that context because I'm not even close. I'm just using it as analysis. But you got to take ownership like Floyd Money Mayweather did. He marketed and promoted himself. He built the brand to where he eventually he went global. The only boxer that's ever understood what a global strategy means. If you fight somebody from Mexico, you fight somebody from over there, going to be in Spain. You're going to fight somebody going to be in the Philippines, right? You're going to fight somebody out of Belgium, the EuroLeague boxing, all of that. He built that brand to make $1 billion. It can be done. Will the WNBA, can it survive without Caitlin? Yeah, well, the college basketball it's not whether they can survive without Caitlin. The real question is the WNBA, can it survive without college basketball? Because that's the brand that's really scaling and all the sponsors are. The WNBA is just getting a little trickle down of that. That's a fact. No doubt about it. So as we move on, we know the partners, they are who they are. Delta, man, scorching $54 billion, giving the WNBA $50 million. Man, I tell you what, that's a good thing. You can make good commercials off of that because that's a drop in the bucket for Delta. CaitlinClark, 15 to 20 million easy all day long. Get ready because, like I said, TNT better not lock out. You better find this thing get done. 90% revenue split. Let's just say that you had to do what you had to do to keep the league going. How about we put it in that perspective is you had to do what you had to do to keep the league going. That's what happened with the WNBA, and that's how they end up in a 90-10 revenue split. Now, is it a little bit far-fetched for Cathy to say expansion, taking 3-game series, the 5-game series, 5-game to 7 games, and expecting the WNBA players to go play a season under that current split? No. That ain't gonna never happen, right? So you might as well rip it up now and get it going because here's what happens. Every day this lingers on is every day you turn people off, right? Because it's not a money grab. It's just the NBA is so powerful that it is what it is. You're not going to get away from the NBA. You can really just say to yourself, yeah, I'm not getting away from these guys. They're going to be around forever. They're trenched in. And Adam Silver is going to build it into the brand. Now, whether you like it or not, it really doesn't matter at this stage because you don't have control. You don't have controlling interest. So you have to follow what Adam Silver says, and you got to do what Adam Silver says do, right? So when you get there and you get Reeves and all these people just getting up there acting a fool, well, you know what? You talk about Connecticut, Minnesota, they don't sell any tickets anyway. They're giving away tickets, right? So let's talk about being a commodity. You get Minnesota and the Lakes, they're offering tickets less than face value. You got CaitlinClark offering more. You got the Las Vegas Aces going to offer more. And now you got the New York Liberty. So you got teams that are moving and scaling in the right direction. But the coach of the year should have been a New York Liberty coach. The executive of the year should have been a New York Liberty. I don't know how Cheryl Reeves get the award, but you got it. You pick Team USA. All that is behind. That was tough on all the partners. Partners control it. Get them down to a round table. They'll talk to you, and they'll make it sure they'll guarantee 100% success because every one of these partners has a blueprint. And my, Delta, $54 billion in revenue. That says you're doing something right and you're making it happen. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. We're just having such a good time. We promise you this. All things are possible to those who believe. WNBA, stay tuned. We'll keep breaking down the money train here on the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast.